Hey guys, welcome back. Joe here. This is vlog number 6, and today, as promised, if you saw my last video, you'll know that I was going into my first face-to-face week for my level 3 coaching qualification, tennis coaching qualification with the LTA. And so last week I covered module 1, and in my last video I spoke about a little bit about what I was maybe expecting. I had not last Friday, but the Friday before, I had a pre-module remote meeting, which kind of went through all the sort of the admin bits and pieces that is expected, kind of what the course is going to cover, and a little bit of a get to know you with the other people on my course online. But last week was really the first kind of getting into the depths and into the weeds of what this course is all about. And I'm going to start off by saying I had an absolutely fantastic first week. It was so much fun. I had said 3 days face to face. It was very intense. I'm not going to lie, I was pretty wiped out by the weekend. I did Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, 8 till 4:30, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays also happened to be my coaching days as well. So I basically did like an 8:30 till 9 day on those 2 days, and then Friday as well. And there was also a lot more kind of playing and hitting and a lot more being active than I maybe originally anticipated in that as well. So whereas I thought it was going to be a lot of sat down, a lot of theory, there were elements of theory in there, and there was sometimes we sat down and we were making lots of notes, and we were discussing different ideas, and obviously they have a certain amount that they need to cover as part of the course, which I'll kind of get into what that was in a second. But yeah, there was actually also a lot of playing as well. So there's 11 of us on the course, and it's a really, really good group. There's some fantastic players in there, and it was really fun just to be around other tennis coaches, hitting to a high level, having people analyze your game, working on different techniques, and developing and helping each other to improve. Was just so much fun. So absolutely fantastic week. As I said, a lot of work, and I was pretty wiped out though. Um, I was working from home in my normal day to day job Monday and Wednesday, and I had pretty easy days those days, um, just to try and keep the energy levels up. And then the weekend was also pretty relaxed as well, just to try and recover a little bit from last week. So now I'm just going to very quickly then get into what exactly was covered. I'm not gonna go over everything in loads of detail, but just to kind of give that flavour of what was covered in module 1 in those face to face days, and then a little bit about what I'm expected to do following on from that. So the very first thing that we spoke about was communication, and what is effective communication when you're talking to your players, talking to maybe parents, other coaches, that side of things, and how to effectively question as well. So a lot of what the course is covering is about understanding kind of almost assessing a player's game. So it's a lot about game assessments, a lot about assessing what people want to work on, where improvements need to be made, and that starts with effective communication. So asking questions that are not just yes no questions, but asking kind of the why, the how, the when, the where, the what sort of questions, to really give people the opportunity to open up and to deep dive into the answers they're giving, which hopefully then gives you more information as a coach. So we spoke a little bit about effective communication, and then we pretty much just got straight into a lot of tactical work. So again, that sort of initial assessment then leads into kind of the observation, what they call tactical observation and analysis, and looking at things like the principles of practice and how to do analysis. So they have a very clear structure in terms of the tactical framework. They have a very clear structure in terms of principles of practice. So to give you a bit of an idea of that, principles of practice being the idea that you might start, say, in a game scenario, what was known as like a random practice. So, someone might have turned around to you and said, oh, I need to work on my forehand. And you go, okay, well, that's great, but you don't know exactly where that weakness is. Not every single forehand is necessarily going to be bad. So you might open up and you might say, right, we're going to play cross court. When you get the opportunity, play down the line, and we'll play the point out. And hopefully that then starts to give you an idea of, okay, well, your player is missing on a deep forehand consistently, or when they try and go for that shot down the line, it's not quite at the right time, or they're not quite executing it correctly. And then you then go into then what's known as a varied practice. So you start to then narrow it down a little bit, and you go, okay, well, we think the forehand down the line might be the issue. Let's kind of probe that a little bit more. And then you go into a variable practice, which is, okay, we've identified that that's the problem. Now we're looking at different ball paces, spins, speeds, all those sorts of things. Can we nail down, is it the low sliding ball that they struggle with more? Or is it, that kind of higher bouncing top spin, or a ball that's got less pace? And then the final element to that principle of practice is what's known as a block practice, and that's your kind of, you're feeding, maybe basket feeding or hand feeding to really work in depth on that one particular shot. But then the idea being that you then progress it back out of that, always then working back towards the game. And this is pretty much what was the sort of the real thing that was hammered in over the last week, with these kinds of principles of practice, and how we kind of go from this analysis, we taper it right down, we identify the shot that needs to work on, and then we kind of taper it back out again. So that was really, really interesting. I said we did a lot of work with each other on that as well, playing points, getting sort of chance to watch each other play and identify our own weaknesses within our game, which was really cool. The other sort of areas that we covered as well then, so we did a lot on tactical, and the LTA, and the way that the LTA teaches this course, is to focus primarily on tactical first. The idea being that, technically everyone has very different techniques, and from a technical standpoint, as long as they're minimizing risk and maximizing the repeatability of a shot, from a technical point of view, there's probably not necessarily as much that needs to be done. Whereas if we can really get people to understand tactically what they're doing, then that's kind of more important. I also forgot to mention as well, on the tactical front, we also did a lot on things to do with patterns of play and different game styles. So again, the idea that, if we were, say, looking at the serve and return, as a server, you might say, a pattern of play would be to serve out wide and to hit into the space. So the idea of building these patterns of play, understanding tactically why we want to do that, is super, super important. As I said, we then did come onto the technical side of things as well. So we did look very in depth technically at like the different grips. So we went through all the different forehand grips, all the different backhand grips for both single and double-handed backhand, and really this wasn't so much as to be able to teach someone a new grip, although you could do if needed. But it was more to understand that different people will prefer a different grip when they're playing, and it's to understand kind of the strengths and weaknesses of those different grips. So, for example, I'll use something a bit more of a technical term here. So I could say what's known as a continental grip, and I don't have a way of necessarily showing you what that looks like. But if you're familiar with tennis, it's kind of essentially what your chopper grip might look like. And if you're unfamiliar with tennis, then please don't go and look at what a continental grip is to provide some context. But for a continental grip, you have a much flatter swing path and you prefer a lower ball. Whereas if, for example, you hold maybe like a semi-Western grip or a Western grip, you maybe prefer a bit of a higher ball, and the swing path will look very, very different holding those different grips. So that was very interesting. And I said we covered that on both the forehand and the backhand side, and really to kind of start to build that understanding of okay, well, what are the limitations here? What are the differences in the grips? And to try and help people work with the grip that they have rather than changing a grip, because a grip change ultimately is a big investment for a tennis player. So if someone is really struggling with a particular grip and it's really not repeatable, or they're potentially causing themselves injury, then yes, we could look at a grip change. But it's only in absolutely necessary circumstances that we do that. And ultimately, we want to just understand how that grip is then affecting their game, and then what we can do to help them try and play more to their strengths using that particular grip. So we also then looked at some other things technically as well. We looked at some things around the serve. We also looked at some things around the volley as well, and return. So we kind of covered all of the game technically within the last 3 days. And again, the technical stuff wasn't necessarily that as in depth in terms of they said the focus was always pushed towards the tactical elements, but from a technical standpoint, there are obviously important technical elements that we need to cover in order to help us then achieve those tactical outcomes. So, for example, we did a little bit of technique around the returner serve, and the key thing really with that is to have a slightly shortened take back, and to imagine that you're trying to really extend through that contact to help control the ball and help control the pace of the serve that is being returned. Now, the tactical outcome of that is that we want to be able to control that ball back deep, so that we are neutralizing a fast serve, or on a second serve, we can maybe look to attack that ball down the line. So again, it's understanding how the technical that we're learning feeds into those tactical patterns of play and that tactical framework. And then the final bit that we covered, really, we did a little bit of work around the strength conditioning. So if you remember back to one of my previous videos, I had to do some home learning before I did my face-to-face work. One of those was strength conditioning. We looked a little bit of that around like the warm up, but also about how we can do different fun warm up drills around coordination and things like that too. And then the final thing that we touched on was around the kind of the mental side of things. And we didn't really go huge amounts in depth in that, but we did cover a little bit. So at level 3, there's a lot around the concentration element of things and understanding how we can get people to focus in on different drills. So again, using warm ups to do, say, like coordination drills with tennis balls, and then how we can maybe do some hitting drills that require us to bring our concentration in, and then we can relax that concentration when we're not hitting. And this importance of being able to bring our focus and bring our concentration in when we're in the point, and then allowing our concentration to expand out a little bit to let our mind rest before bringing it back in. So that was really important as well. So that's a very brief cover of what the course has involved so far. As I said, a really great first 3 days. Just to then very quickly kind of cover what is coming up. I've got quite a lot to get done in the next month. So my next online session is end of February, and then I've got face-to-face days towards the end of March. So my tasks, I guess, I've got to get done. I've got 2 more lots of self-taught videos to go through. So I'm going to try and make a bit of a start on those this week if I can. But I also have to get done some demonstrating and feeding tasks. So they give you 11 different types of feeding or demonstrations that you need to be able to do, which range from how to return a serve, from how to hit a slice backhand, how to approach the net, how to hit a lob. And there's 11 different types of these demonstrations that you need to be able to do. And now this is kind of, I guess, more of like a formative part of of the course. So it's not specifically graded, but you can get marked down if you don't produce this. And excuse me, if you don't produce this. And the way that this works is that I do filming of all my 11 demonstrations, and then I mark myself on the technique that I use for that demonstration, so how good the demo itself actually was, but then also how good the outcome of the ball was. So it might be I need to hit 10 slice serves out wide, and I'll be looking at how I'm demoing that slice serve to start with, and looking at ways I can improve that demo, but then also how effective was that slice serve, so that if I were to say feed someone a slice serve out wide, how repeatable can I hit that serve as well. So there's quite a lot to cover in that. And then the final thing that I also wanted to mention is I need to make a start my player development project. Now this is kind of the really big bit of this course, aside from the summative assessment at the very end, but this is the thing that's going to be ongoing throughout. So I have to basically assess a player playing a match. I can do that through video assessment. I have to do some statistical kind of, I guess, analysis on that match, look at their kind of areas of weakness, and then discuss with that player what they want to work on, and then go through sessions with them, developing specific aspects of their game. That all sounds okay, but I need to make sure I'm documenting all of this work as well. And at the end of it, I have to create a 20-minute presentation going from, here is my match analysis, here are the key areas that I picked out, here is what my player and me and my player have decided to work on. Here is some video footage of the progression of us working on that, and working on specific patterns of play and specific tactics around that improvement that we're trying to make. And then they have to play another match, again, that is also filmed, again, that is match charted, and statistical analysis done on that match. And then I have to then do another piece, another little kind of analysis at the end of that, which just says, here is where they were trying to implement this. This is how successful I think it was, and then what we would potentially try and do for future lessons if we were to carry on. So that I've really got to get a bit of a jump on. As I've spoken about before, I'm doing this alongside a full-time job, so trying to get those sessions in and trying to get a player. I think I've got someone in mind who is willing to do it, so I need to speak to them about it, get them on board, get them playing their first match, and I can then start this process of tracking the match and doing all that fun stuff. So that was probably a little bit longer than I maybe anticipated for a video for this, but there was a lot to cover, and I just really wanted to give you guys a snapshot of what's included. But if you have any questions, or you want to know some more detail about anything that was included or anything that I said, please do reach out, drop me a comment, drop me a like, or if you really want to subscribe as well, Just as a little side note as well, I will also be starting up another part of my channel. So I'm going to continue doing these vlogs, again, trying to do them once a week to kind of give you an idea of what I've been doing, what I've been working on. But I'm also going to start trying to build the other side of my YouTube channel. So please do stay posted for that as well. And if you've got this far, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks again.